just as Romantics reacted against the enlightened philosophers and writers, in the 19th century, a group of writers reacted against Romanticism. They thought it was just too much. Enough of this sentimental thing, enough about this mysterious past, the idealization of women, the idealization of nature, the idealization of people. No, we can depict the world in a different way. Honoré de Balzac, whose monument in Paris represents the figure of one of the most important writers of the modern world. His Comédie humaine, the human comedy, is a series of more than 50 novels that represent daily aspects of life in contemporary France of his time, the mid-19th century. Prostitutes, workers, beggars, servants, they're not that ideal for literary representation, maybe. But why should everything be ideal? Why should literature have to always explore things that do not necessarily exist in reality, but in the imagination or the subjective world of the poet? No. Balzac, Flaubert, Stendhal, and other realist writers decided to put the reality as we know it in front of the public, depicting their real dramas, the real tragedies. And they were immensely popular. Balzac wrote continuously. He was indefatigable and prolific. His many novels were followed by a lot of people, even by people who didn't know how to read, by listening at public readings. Also realist is Gustave Flaubert, maybe not as popular as Balzac in his own time, but he has survived the selection of history for many of his works, but mainly for his novel Madame Bovary. This is probably one of the most complex, charming, and appealing characters of Western literature. A young woman, a young wife, who is bored with her life. She doesn't have satisfaction, she is not happy, her husband is a typical bourgeois who just thinks of her as a reproductive being. So she gives a green light to her feelings, to her passion, and she falls in love and takes a lover. The novel, I don't want to spoil it, but ends tragically. It's not a moralistic novel, but it shows us very well the drama of a provincial small family when bourgeois conventions, traditional conventions prevail over the happiness, the passion, the feelings of the characters. Madame Bovary, published in 1857 for the first time, was immensely popular at that moment. Here is a representation of this poor young lady who falls into temptation and ends up destroying her own family. A drama that is not unusual. Another realist writer, Stendhal, whose real name was Marie-Henri Beyle, a French fiction writer, very famous because of novels like Le Rouge et le Noir, or The Red and the Black, from 1830, or La Chartreuse de Parme, the Charter House of Parma in 1849, novels that explored the psychology of their characters in a very detailed way. And in addition to the realist of France, we have to add the naturalist from France, Émile Zola, who was famous with novels like Nana, The Life of a Prostitute, and also he played a very important role in the political affair Dreyfus, when a Jewish guy was accused of treason to the homeland, and Zola played the role of a public intellectual. We could add names like, for example, Charles Dickens in England, to a realist playette of beautiful, wonderful writers. The illiterate poor in London paid to just listen the novels of Dickens because they felt themselves represented by this literary giant. Like, for example, in his 1843 novella, A Christmas Carol, that still remains the subject of inspiration of many plays and movies. Oliver Twist, Great Expectations, A Tale of Two Cities. These are well-known works that are still popular, well-read, and tell us about the life under the Industrial Revolution, the misery and the suffering that the advancement, the growth of the British bourgeoisie brought to the peasants and workers of mid-19th century England.